Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new malicious compliance content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, "Won't Give Me the New Customer Discount." Okay. A few years ago, my wife and I purchased our first home in upstate New York. We weren't moving far, just 2 towns over, about a 20-minute drive. Around this same time, our local internet provider was running a promotion for new customers, offering 5x the internet speed for roughly half of what we were currently paying. A couple of weeks before our move, I called the internet company to let them know that we were moving and to transfer our service. I asked if it would be possible to receive the new customer discount with the move and was told in no uncertain terms that this was not possible. I insisted that I wanted the new customer rate and even threatened to cancel, but they called my bluff, knowing that they were a monopoly and that I had no other legitimate option. Thinking quickly, I asked if it would be possible to get the new customer rate by simply remove my name from the account and adding my wife's name instead. The rep balked at the suggestion and even quoted from a paragraph from my customer agreement outlining how such a transfer from one family member to another is not allowed. Then it occurred to me. I asked the rep if he knew my wife's name or the address to which we were moving. After a brief pause, he answered, no. I then happily let him know that I would like to cancel my service, effective at the end of the month. He was adamant that any attempt to circumvent their transfer policy was a violation of my contract, but eventually agreed to the cancellation. 2 weeks later, after our move and half an hour phone call, my wife signed up for our new cheap, fast internet. They jacked our rates up a couple of years later, but it felt good to get just one over on the big bully. Next one is titled, "HOA didn't like the 3 inches of our tree on the sidewalk." I am living with my parents temporarily and came home to my dad bitterly putting on his jacket and boots. He's not the type to express his frustration, so I asked what's going on. Apparently the HOA, who has only sent us a letter once in the 12 years we've lived here, sent one today, nitpicking our yard. Our Christmas tree was 3 inches on the sidewalk and was a hazard to pedestrians walking space and didn't align with the tree maintenance code that doesn't allow overgrowth onto streets or sidewalks unless 8 feet tall. This also affected the tree across from the Christmas tree, since that thick branch you can see cut out was 7.8 feet tall over the sidewalk. There were a few other nitpicky things, but the letter at the end was like, "You have a week to fix this, or you'll be charged $50 a day till it's fixed." We recently got a new head of the HOA who's gone happy to fix the neighborhood, since the old HOA president was pretty laid back during their last years. The letter was pretty passive-aggressive too, with specific measurements, direct quotes from the code, and a speak about keeping the neighborhood nice. I think my dad was even more mad because he's been working on the yard all week to make it nice for the winter, and had just the Christmas tree left. So he told me, well, if they want it done that fast and are going to be hounding me the moment it's overgrown, then I don't want to risk it becoming a problem over the winter. We measured the overhang, it's 8.3 ft. In his words, it ain't pretty, but it's within code. No expected rebuttal from HOA, as they haven't sent another letter, and this was 3 weeks ago. My dad's only concern is the tree having a dead patch, but he's been meaning to get different tree scents, that one is coming close to being as tall as our house and is too much upkeep for him and his full-time job. Plus, he's getting a bit older, which makes the outdoor work harder for him now. Next one is titled, "Take all the phone equipment out? You sure?" Back in the dark ages before Netflix, telephones at businesses used to be fixed lines with wires connecting the phone jack to a switching room. This was the mid-1990s. I worked for the concession company at one of those huge event venues that hosted concerts, hockey games, and trade shows. I was the third in command of sorts, in charge of being sure all of the concession stands were properly stocked and ready to go as each event began. I would fix stuff, set up the beer stands, and just generally be sure everything was ready to go. Overall, it was a sweet gig with backstage access to every concert, as our office was next to the performer's dressing room. But all good things must come to an end, and the corporate office decided to not submit a bid to renew our 10-year contract. There was a fixed end date, and to plan the transition, there were a couple meetings with the new company that would be taking over. Okay. One major point of discussion is what would be left behind that was owned by the venue, and what our company would be taking. Most things that were owned by our company that would be a pain to take were offered to the new company at a low price, a real steal. Beer coolers, central CO2 tank, grills, popcorn machines, etc. And the new company agreed to buy it all until we got to one item, the phone system. The building was huge with massive concrete walls and floors, so cell phone didn't work so great. So our company had installed landline telephones, all connected through the building's central telephone switching room. As our company paid for the phone system, and it wouldn't be worth it to take the phones with us, W offered it to the new company for $500. They said no. A bit later, at lunch, I heard one of the representatives for the new company laughing about the offer of the phone system. He muttered something to the effect that they could just hook their phones up to the wires and be ready to go for much cheaper. At the end of the meeting, we reviewed what was agreed. And in going over the phone equipment, the other company's representative said, "No, just take it all out." Okay. Now my boss, L, was pretty cool and a bit impish. Her boss, D, the head guy at our site, was a very straight-laced conservative guy. He didn't seem to have that slightly devilish streak in him. But when I came to the office the next day, D and L told me to do exactly what the other company asked for the phone system. Take it all out. I spent that a day going to each concession stand, taking the phone off the wall, unscrewing the plate for the phone jack and removing that, and then pulling the phone lines as far as I could and reaching down into the wall to cut the wires. Each stand was left with a hole in the all-in phone lines that were cut about an inch below the edge of the hole. A fond farewell. The end of the contract was coming, and the very last day of our contract, I had the sad duty to deal with the leftover alcohol. Corporate did not have any other locations in our state with a liquor license, so we could not transfer stock to other locations across state lines. D gave the order to pour the remaining liquor down the sink, and then he promptly left for lunch. With a wink from L, we poured a few partial bottles of vermouth and other mixers down the drain to give the office that smell of booze. And then we loaded the trunk of L's car with as many mixed cases as would fit and put the rest in our company van. Elle knew I didn't have a car, but she then suggested that I drive the van to get it washed. And what do you know? When I got back, the van was sparkling clean and empty of any boxes of booze. The aftermath: that winter I attended a hockey game at the arena and noticed the hole still open in the wall of the concession stand. I guess they didn't just hook up their equipment to the wires after all. Next one is titled, "You want my birth certificate to fix my social security information?" Okay, buddy. A few years back, I had to get a new social security card here in the US. I'm a UK citizen who was born in Japan, comes to play a little later, and was naturalized as a US citizen when I was 17. Discovered when getting the card that for some reason they had entered my birthday incorrectly in their system and said I was a day older than I actually was. Tried to fix it over the phone, but they said I would need to come into one of their offices to fix it. Fine, I go ahead and do that, bringing my driver's license and both of my passports. I wait in line, finally get to a booth and lay out my case. I show them each of my ID that have my correct birthdays. Then I get told flat out that it doesn't matter. What's in the system is in the system. Only my original birth certificate would be accepted. Let that sink in for a moment. I blinked for a bit and then asked them if they looked at my passports to see where I was born. They looked blankly back at me. I smiled and nodded. "Oh, sure thing," I said with a Cheshire cat grin growing across my face. "I'll be back right here tomorrow to your booth with it. I'm assuming you're well-versed in katakana, hiragana, and kanji, correct?" "What?" they said, a little trepidation entering their voice. "As my passports show, I was born in Japan. My birth certificate is in Japanese." "Oh." They looked down sheepishly at their desk for a moment. "What was your real birthday again?" I told them, and with a few keystrokes, suddenly there was no problem fixing my birthday anymore. Left with a new appreciation of having a birth certificate written in a foreign language. Next one is titled, "New Manager Consolidates Meetings to Waste Our Time and Consistently Loses Docs for Sign-Off." So I used the meeting time to get him to sign docs. Fred was my new suited-up boss from IBM, hired to oversee 3 groups. I headed one, the IT group. In addition to IT, I had to handle all the hardware, software, and maintenance paperwork for all 3 groups. Fred started by having one HR weekly meeting with each group, but after a month consolidated them into a 3+ hour meeting. He insisted each person give a weekly summary, going around the table. 30+ people, half the worker bees, went zombie after their turn. Fred became the black hole for signing off my paperwork, claiming I'd never given something to him. It would surface much later from a pile on his desk, usually a day or so before a contract was due or quote was going to expire. This put me at odds with the other group managers from time to time. So, starting sitting near the end at the meetings and bring all the paperwork I needed to work on. At my turn, I'd spend my first 5 minutes briefly explaining each document as I pass it to him, and the other managers would mark it in their meeting notes if it applied to them. Best use of my time. He couldn't weasel out and blame me, and the other managers would ask him the next meeting if he'd signed off on XYZ. Got to the point where he'd just sign it and pass it back to me. Fred complained to me that I was being disrespectful to him, and it reflected in my pay non-raise that year. It was worth it. I ended up saving so much time. Last one is titled, "Don't want to pay a $1.30 late fee. Try $4,500. I used to work at a call center for one biggest tele providers in our country. Mobile subscriptions, internet, landlines, all that. The call center I worked at was also only for business clients and not private customers. So it was not unusual for a client to have a lot of mobile subscriptions. One thing to note, I'm not sure how changing a mobile providers in other countries work, but in my country you have to get the other company you want to transfer to order the numbers from where you are now to them. You cannot cancel your subscription and then have it transferred. If you cancel your subscription, it stops working right away. If you want to transfer after that, then you need to order a reopening of the subscription on that phone number for it to be able to transfer to the other tele provider. And the reopening is treated as a new order and a new subscription. So it's an ordeal to go through. Also, and this is important for the story, if you have a debt collection case for an invoice with the tele provider you are currently at, you will then no longer be able to get new subscriptions with that company until the debt collection is paid in full. Now onto my story. I get a call in from a customer who had maybe 10 to 15 mobile subscriptions with us, as well as an internet subscription, and apparently they worked with sales. The customer was very angry on the phone. He tells me that they have received a debt collection case from us for an invoice they had not paid, which was true. There was an invoice in our systems that they had not paid, and it had indeed gone to debt collection. He then told me that he knew about the invoice, but had just not bothered to pay it. What do you accept to happen if you didn't pay it? He then proceeded to berate me for sending them a debt collection and demanded that we cancel it immediately. One other thing to note is that none of the people that worked on the floor of the call center have the authority to cancel debt collection cases. We need to send a case to another department for that. He would not let me send a case, nor would he let me call a supervisor to maybe expedite things. He said that I should cancel it right away or he would cancel all of their subscriptions right this second. QMC. Normally when people threaten to cancel their subscriptions because of reasons, they mean they want to transfer to another provider, and I usually refer them to contact that other provider so they can start the process. This time, however, since the customer was being an a-hole, I did not do that. I asked point blank, "Me? Do you want to cancel your subscriptions with us immediately?" Customer, "Yes." Me, "Are you sure?" Customer, "Yes." Me, "Okay then, I will cancel all your subscriptions right this second." Customer, "Good." A-hole. Then he hung up. I logged the call with every detail that he had said and asked me to, and added an extra line of if any doubts, just listen to the recording of the call. I got at it and went ahead and canceled all of the subscription this client had with us, all of them, even their internet subscription. After about an hour, one of my coworkers got a very angry call from the client, who was forced to call from another phone because guess what? Their subscription was canceled. I was done for the day, so I just went home, but my coworker filled me in the next day. The client had yelled and screamed that they were no longer able to call out or receive calls, as well as their internet was down. He had read the log I created and informed the client that they had terminated our services, so of course they would not receive any calls nor make them. They demanded that we open up the subscriptions again so that they could do their work, but again my coworker had to inform them that it would not be possible, since they had a debt collection case that needed to be paid first, or else none of the orders they put in would go through. After more screaming and profanities, my coworker had to end the call. The next day I had the evening shift, but I had saved the client's information to see if anything else had happened. Apparently the debt collection got paid and the subscriptions reopened. They also had ordered a transfer to another provider. I have no idea how much money lost, but for a sales team to not be able to work for over 24 hours, I can only guess that it was a lot. Also, as a cherry on top of things, they were in a contract period with us, which means that they get a small discount on their subscriptions if they are with us for a set period of time. If they break that contract, which they did when they told me to cancel their subscription, as well as transferring to another provider afterwards, they had to pay a fee of over $300 per subscription. That was at least $4,500, on top of what they lost the 24H they couldn't do anything. All because they didn't want to pay a $30 late fee. Thanks for listening.